this is Gina. Today I'm going to show you how to make this crystal and pearl bracelet. Now, this crystal and pearl bracelet can be just the opposite. You can have pearls or drukes on the outside here. You can use 4mm bicones in the center here, or a little 4mm round crystal in the center. Now, the reason I'm telling you this is that these little round crystals are top drilled 8mm rounds. They are not the most easy beads to find. I found them at a bead show. I looked all over line. I couldn't find them very easily. So, what I did find easily were 8mm top drilled pearls, glass pearls, or drukes, or there's several different other types of beads. You can also use a 4mm bicone crystal that's top drilled. This is a Swarovski, and instead of having the hole down the center, it has a hole in the top of the bead right here. It's a top drilled. And I went ahead and used some 8mm top drilled bicone crystals just in a little segment here so that I could see if they would work, and they do work. And here's the difference. They do work, and they are very pretty, just as much as the round ones are. See, they're just as pretty. So you can find Swarovski crystal drilled, top drilled 8mm bicone crystals for this too. You can find drukes, you can find top drilled glass pearls, anything that you want. Don't limit yourself because you can't find the exact crystals that I have. As long as they're 8mm round and they're drilled on top, or they're 8mm bicone drilled on top, they will work. You can also experiment with other crystals that are top drilled. There's several different shapes that are top drilled that you could try. I have several in my collection. There's some here too. This will probably work too. I bought these at Hobby Lobby. So you can try different types and see what will work. Now, let me show you what this looks like off the wrist. And this is what it looks like. Now, when I made my clasping, I made this end a little wide for my clasping as far as staying on real tight. It does work. It is pretty this way, but you can also use a regular clasp, like a toggle clasp, or you can devise your clasping a little bit different on this end, or you can put a button here. A button would work a lot better than this little crystal. This does work. It's just not as secure as I would like it to be. You could also use a magnetic clasp. You could use whatever you wanted, but I'm just letting you know, forewarning you that this is not the most secure way of doing it. But I designed this bracelet while I was making the tutorial, so I didn't have a chance to change it or modify it. However, this does work, like I said. You just may want to change it up a little bit if you prefer. Anyway, let's go ahead and see what it takes to make this bracelet today. Okay, so today for this project, you're going to need 15 seed beads and 8 seed beads. These are Toho galvanized aluminum silver tone, and they are the permanent finish seed beads. Then you will need an 8mm round top drilled bead. Now, you can also use a top drilled 8mm bicone crystal. Let's look at these so you can see what I mean by top drilled. Most beads have the hole right down the center of the bead. These have a hole through the top, so you can see this little hole through the top. Same with the bicone crystal. It has a hole through the top. Now, this is a Swarovski 8mm bicone top drilled. You can get these at Fire Mountain or several other places. They're easier to find than the round crystal. But you can also get drukes and pearls that are 8mm round top drilled. So it doesn't have to be the top drilled round crystal. It can be the bicone, or it can be a pearl, it can be a druke, whatever you want it to be. As long as they are 8mm and they are top drilled. They will work well in this design. Then you will need a 4mm round, and I'm using a 4mm round glass pearl, which is cream colored. You will also need some either 10-pound Nanofil, like I'm going to use today, or 8-pound Fireline. Either one will work well. I don't recommend that you go down much more than that, even though we're going to be using some 15-0s, simply because of the fact that these are heavy beads, and the 8-pound or the 10-pound is going to work best. And we're not going to be sewing up through the 15-0s a whole bunch, so you don't have to worry about passing through them many times with your thicker thread. Then you will need a size 10 beading needle. I'm using an English beading needle. And you will need to thread onto your needle a full 2 wingspans of thread, and we will go ahead and get started. So to start this project, you are going to pick up a top drilled 8mm round, or whatever you're using for your 8mm bead. Then you're going to pick up 2 8/0 seed beads. Then you're going to pick up another top drilled bead, and then 2 8/0 seed beads. And this is what you should have. Then you're going to bring these to the end of the thread. Let's back off a little bit here, and let me rearrange my camera so I have more room to move around. Now, you're going to bring these down to the end of the thread. And these are big beads, so just leave them laying on your bead mat. Leave probably about, we're not going to probably use our tail to put on our clasping. So just leave a few inches so that you can hold on to your tail and that your beads don't slip off. Then come back with your working thread and go through the first bead you put on from the tail side all the way through to the last bead, like so. And you're going to have to hold on to these beads and the tail all at once. So I'm just going to tuck the tail between my pinky finger there, and I'm going to pull these beads down around into a circle, like so. And this is what you should have. Then you're just going to sew back through. I'm going to shorten my tail a little bit here. Maybe, maybe not. Then you're going to sew back through all of these beads that you just put on. So just go back through the crystal, or whatever it is you're using, and then through the 8/0s, and back through the crystal. I'm going to have to do them one at a time. Then I'm going to come back up through this side here. Now, we're going to add 8/0 seed beads to the 8/0 seed beads we have in a ladder stitch. So we are going to go up through the 8/0 seed beads here. We're coming out of the crystal, go up through the 8/0 seed beads. This is a very simple stitch. It's a really simple project, actually. Let's pick up 2 8/0 seed beads. You're coming out of this side of the 8/0s. You're going to go into the opposite side from which your thread is exiting, and you're going to pull the 8/0 seed beads next to the 8/0 seed beads that are already on your piece. Tighten your tail, tighten your working thread, and then sew back through the 2 you just added. As I pull them all out of whack here. And then back up through the 2 that you attached to, like so. And now you're coming out of these 8/0s. We are then going to go back into the crystal, and we're going to put another set of 8/0s on this side, which we won't need to do as we're working through our bracelet, but this is going to be the end where we'll put our clasping, and we want to have the set of 8/0s sticking out here so that it's available for our clasping. So I'm going to go through these 2 8/0 seed beads here. Then I am going to pick up 2 more 8/0s, and I'm going to go back through the 8/0s on the opposite side, and I'm going to pull them down to the 2 that I'm attaching to, and then again come up through the 2 that I just put on, back into the 2 that I attached to, And here we're going to embellish the center between the crystals. So we're going to pick up two 15-0 seed beads and a pearl and two 15-0 seed beads. You're coming out of this side of the 8-0s. We'll get just a little bit closer. You're coming out of the 8-0s here. You're going to find the opposite set of 8-0s and go into the opposite end. So you're coming out of the top here. You're going to go into the bottom here in this first set of 8-0s next to the crystals. And then you will pull the pearl and the 15-0s in a diagonal across, like so. And this is what you should have. Now you're coming out of these 8-0 seed beads here. You're going to go through these here. We're going to tighten everything up, because if you don't tighten your embellishment at this point, you won't be able to. They'll be loose on your finished piece, and you don't want to do that. So make sure each step that you do is tight and neat. Now, you're coming out of these 8-0s, you're going to pick up a crystal, and then you're going to pick up two 8-0s and a crystal, like so. We're going to drop those down, and we're going to come back to the opposite end we're exiting from. So we're exiting here, we're going to go through here, and we're going to pull our beads up, like so. Now we need to sew through this entire new addition. So we're coming out here, we're going to sew into the crystal, then we're going to sew into the 8-0s, then we're going to sew into this crystal here, then we're going to sew into these 8-0s here, and from here I'm going to add my centerpiece, and as I come through these beads over here, I'll add my next set of 8-0s for my next unit. So I will pick up two 15-0 seed beads. Now if you want your center beads to be all the same direction, then you will have to sew through your crystal, get yourself into position so that you always come out of the 8-0 seed beads the same way and go in the same way on the opposite side so that your pearls all line up. But with this design, it doesn't really matter that much. So I'm not going to worry about that. My little center ones can go back and forth in their diagonal. It's okay with me to do that. If you don't like that, change that. So pick up two 15-0s, a pearl, and two 15-0s. Coming out of these beads here, we're going to go into the opposite side of the opposite beads, like so, and pull a pearl across the center, like so. Now see what I mean? This one's laying diagonally this way, this one's laying diagonally this way, and if you don't want that, then that's what I was talking about, which you can change. Pick up two more 8-0 seed beads. You're coming out of these 8-0 seed beads here. You're going to go into the opposite side that you're coming out of with two 8-0s on your needle. You're going to pull the new 8-0s down to the 8-0s that you're attaching to. You're going to go through the new 8-0s. You are then going to go through the 8-0s again that you're attaching to, and then again come through the new 8-0s. And then you will pick up a top drilled bead, two 8-0 seed beads, and a top drilled bead, like so. You're coming out of this side, we're going to go into the opposite side, pull them down, and then sew through all the beads you just added. So we're coming out of the 8-0s, we are going to go into the crystal, we're then going to go into the 8-0s again, we are then going to go into the crystal, and the 8-0s on this side over here, and then we'll tighten everything up, like so. Make sure it's nice and tight. and then pick up two 15-0 seed beads and a pearl and two 15-0 seed beads, and then you're coming out of this set of 8-0s, you're going to go into the opposite set here on the opposite side. So we're coming out here, we're going to go into these two here and pull the pearl across in a diagonal, like so. And then we will pick up two more 8-0 seed beads. We're coming out of this set of 8-0, we're going to go into the opposite side and pull our new 8-0 seed beads down, like so, and then go up through it again, the new ones, go into the ones we're attaching to, go into the new set, and we'll do one more unit here and then we'll go to length. So pick up a top drill bead, your 8mm bead, pick up two 8-0 seed beads and a top drill. If I can get a hold of it, there. And then we're coming out of this side, we're going to go into the opposite side, like so. Pull these down and sew through our entire unit again. Go through this side, go into these two beads here, go into this bead here, come up through the 8-0s here, tighten everything up, make sure it looks good, and then pick up two 15-0 seed beads onto your needle and a 4mm round, and then two 15-0 seed beads. Coming out of this side here in this set of 8-0s, we're going to go into the opposite set of 8-0s over here, into the opposite side, and pull our pearl. Now, you're going to continue doing this until you are about an inch short of the length you want. Okay, so I have made 18 units, and I'm counting each pearl to count it. So that would be the center of my unit. So 1, 2, 3, and I've made 18 of them. And I made this just about, show you where it comes together on my wrist here, just about, not quite an inch, a little less than an inch apart here. So this is, let me measure it so that you'll know how long it is. This is just a little over 6 inches long. I want my bracelet to be just a little over 7 inches. So this is perfect for me. And like I said, it's 18 units. Now you will adjust this according to the size you want to make. Either measure it around your wrist, measure it on a board, and then you will know exactly what you're going to end up with. That way I don't have to tell you exact units. You will just have to use a ruler or a beadboard like I have and measure it. Then we are going to put on one end of our clasping here. So we're coming out of these two 8-0 seed beads here. So we are going to sew through these 2 units of 8-0 seed beads a couple of times just to support them, or just to secure them so that they can support our clasping better. So I'm coming out of this set here, my very last set. I've already secured them a couple of times, but I'm going to sew through one more time just to make sure that they're nice and secure, like so. And then I am going to pick up 2 15-0 seed beads, and I am going to pick up a top drilled crystal, and then I'm going to pick up 2 15-0 seed beads, like so. And then I am going to go through the opposite side of my 8/0s. Like this. And I'm going to sew through this several times so that I can ensure that this is nice and secure. So go ahead and sew back through all of these beads and secure it onto your bracelet very well. And we will be back and I will show you the next step. Okay, so I have secured this on as much as my 15/0 seed beads would allow. Passing through with bigger thread, it doesn't allow you to go through a million times, but it's stronger because it is bigger thread, so it should be fairly secure. And now I'm coming out of this set of 8/0 right here. I am going to sew into the next set of 8/0 seed beads right next to them. So I've gone into this set right here. Then I'm going to go into the crystal, and just the crystal. Now on this step, this is going to be the part of the design that will stiffen this design up some, because this is really floppy and these beads flop around. I have decided that I want to stiffen it up some, plus it makes the top a little bit prettier too. So you can either, I'm going to say if you need to, you can add a seed bead on either side of the pearl we're going to put through here. However, I'm not going to do that because I don't think that it's going to secure my piece as much as I want. But some people don't like to see thread at all, and you may see a tiny bit of thread doing this. You may not. It depends on the beads you're using. Now, if you're using bicones, you may need to use a little seed bead in between, a little 15/0. If you're not, if you're using rounds, whatever type of round you're using, you should be able to get away with just putting a 4mm round between the beads. So I'm picking up a 4mm round pearl. I'm coming out of this crystal here. I'm just going to slide into the next crystal, and just the crystal. And I'm going to pull this pearl down, and I'm going to tighten my piece a little as I do that, just like this. Now I want this to pop up on top of my 8/0s. I don't want it to separate my crystals that much. I want it to go on the top. So pull your bead forward as you do this. Pick up your next pearl, go into the next crystal, and pop the bead up on top of the 8/0s. Pull it tightly, not horribly tight, just so there's no slack. If you pull it really tight, you're going to cinch in your bracelet a lot and you're going to lose some length. So just enough to where it's pretty and sits on top. Continue sliding through each crystal, adding a bead in between them. So I'm coming out of this crystal, I'm going to go into this crystal and pop my little pearl on top. And we're going to do this the entire length. Avoid bunching your piece or making it squish together. Just put a pearl in between each one without any slack, and we will be back when we get to the end of the bracelet. So I have put my entire embellishment on all the way to the end here. I was coming out of the crystal when I finished my embellishment. Then I sewed up into the first set of 8/0 seed beads and then down into the second set. Now you can sew around this unit a couple of times if it needs to be secured. The very end unit where your tail is usually does need to be secured, so you can sew around it, and then you'll just be exiting one of the 8/0 seed beads in the very last unit here. Then we are going to see how much room we need here. So we're going to add a little pearl here to extend our clasping circle around that will go around the bead on this side. So I'll show you what I mean. We are going to pick up two 15/0 seed beads and a pearl, 4mm round pearl, and two 15/0 seed beads. We are then going to go into the opposite side from which we are exiting. So we're exiting here. We're going to go into this side of these two 8/0 seed beads and slide through both of them, like so. And pull this down like that. Now I'm going to sew around this one more time to secure it. So I'm going to go up through these 15/0s, through the pearl, through the 15 O's, and then through the 8 O's, and then back up through the 15 O's on this side here. Now I am going to pick up a series of 15 O seed beads. I'm going to pick up about 30 of them and try it around my bead on this side. Since we'll all be using different types of beads, we will have to figure out exactly how many we need to make our loop to go around the other side of the crystal, or the crystal on the other side, I guess is what I should say. So each person is going to have a different amount, more than likely, since we will all be using different types of beads to make this. So I'm going to pick up about 30, and then I will be back and I'll show you how to test and make sure that it'll go around the opposite bead. Now, make sure you're coming out of your purl. I'm exiting my 15 O's here. I will pass back through my purl and pick up my 30 seed beads. We will be back as soon as I have picked up 30 15 O seed beads. I am going to pass back through my purl. So I was coming out of my purl. I picked up my 30. I'm going to go back into the purl on the opposite side and pull these into a loop like this. And then I'm going to wrap this around my finger, hold it as tight as I can so that I don't get any slippage while I try this on, because then you won't get a true sizing here. And then I'm going to slip this over. And yes, that is going to work. So I am going to sew back up through around all of my 15 O seed beads as many times as I can. Now it's difficult with thicker thread and a bigger needle to sew too many times through, but I'm going to try at least 2 more times through all of these beads. So I will just go through all the 15 O's and then through the purl, and then through all the 15 O's and through the purl again. And then I have sewn through and secured my little loop. Now I'm coming out of the purl. I am now going to sew down into these 2 seed beads right here, coming out of the purl here, going into these 2 15 O's here, and pull through. And then I'm going to go into this first set of 8 O's here. I'm going to cut this tail off because it's annoying me. I'll burn it down if I can find it. I'll burn it down when I'm finished. And then I'm coming out of this set of 8 O's right here. I'm going to go into this set of 8 O's here. Pull through. And then I'm going to hop up into this crystal right here. And I'm going to do the same thing on this side as I did on this side. I am going to pick up a purl, and I'm going to slide from crystal to crystal. So I'm coming out of this crystal. I've picked up a purl onto my needle. I'm going to slide into this crystal here and pull like so. Let's back off just a little bit. And I will continue doing that all the way down, and make sure that your crystal lifts up on top of the 8 O's and doesn't lay in between your crystals and separate them. Just want it to lay in the center here. So pull it until it has just the right amount of slack to lay there nice, and then pick up another purl and slide into the next crystal like so. Adjust your purl to where it's just right, and then do that again, and do it all the way until you get to the end of the piece, and we'll be back. Okay, so I have finished my entire embellishment on this side now. I'm coming out of the crystal here. Let's get us closer so you can see. I'm coming out of the crystal after my last one. Now I'm getting short on thread, so I'm going to tie off. I'm going to go through these 8 O seed beads on this side here. They're moving around, kind of difficult to get through, but you can do it. And then I'm going to make sure my last embellishment is nice, and then I'm going to grab a half hitch knot right here between the 8/0 and the crystal. I'm just going to grab a knot. And then I'm going to sew into my crystal on this side and this pearl here. Just tighten it back up because it's kind of loose. And then I am going to, I'll go through a couple crystals here. Make sure all the pearls are on top. Then I'm going to grab another knot right here between the pearl and the crystal. Actually, I'm going to push my thread through the back, and I'm going to go into these 8/0s right here, just so that I can slide down into them. I'm going to go into the main body of the 8/0s here, just so that my pearls don't get all funny sewing through them, because I want them to lay just right. Now I'm coming out. I've turned it over. I went through the 8/0s. I turned it over. I'm coming out between the 8/0 and the crystal, and I'm going to grab a knot on that thread bridge so that I don't bunch up my pearls. Okay, I'm going to cut my thread off. Those monster huge scissors. Burn down the little excess. And back off. And this is what your finished bracelet looks like. I will put it on and show you what that looks like. Okay, so this is what the finished project looks like on. This is the clasping. Now, I wish I had actually devised this a little smaller, but it does work. It's just that I made this a little wide around the bottom here, so it doesn't want to stay as well as it could if it was smaller, but it is staying pretty well, as you can see. I'm shaking my arm around and it's staying on there. So it does work, but you can always use a regular clasp too. You don't have to do this crystal clasping if you don't want to. And this is what the finished piece looks like. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. See you later.